Thank you all for coming tonight. I am so honored to be on the stage with two of the most influential people in my life. Tonight I want to start out talking to you about the Ridge Run. So I had lived in in 2008, I decided to do the Ridge Run. I had lived in Bozeman for about 6 years, and I was going to prove myself. Still didn't feel like I was total Bozeman, so I did what I had to do to prove myself, to prove to myself that I was a Bozeman girl at heart. And what I've realized over the past years is that the Ridge Run very clearly mimics so many parts of my life. The day of the Ridge Run, I woke up early. It was still dark. It was about 4 a.m. And I don't know how many of you are runners, but I've run long distance my whole life. And actually, the day of the race is like the race is already over in my brain. It's just the fun part left. All of the arduous training, the grueling hills, and day and night training is over, and I am on the home stretch. When I did the Ridge Run, I got on that home stretch a little bit too early. The night before, I had a glass of wine, followed by another, followed by 4 bottles. It wasn't my greatest morning. And as I was hitchhiking up to the ridge, up to Fairy Lake, right outside the M, as I was like hitching a ride with other runners, I wasn't sure. I was pretty sure last night was a bad idea. I didn't know if my flip-flopping stomach was from the drinking or because I was nervous about the gun going off. My ability to back out was getting shorter and shorter as the car I was in progressed to Fairy Lake, and the gun blast got closer and closer. So we're all at Fairy Lake. We're all huddled together, ready to race. And the gun goes off. With that bang, my heart started racing, and I forgot about the bottles of wine, and I was on the ridge. The first part of the Ridge Run is switchbacks, all the way up to Sacagawea. And the funny part is, they put entertainment along this run. It's 20 miles at almost 10,000 feet. They figured they should probably entertain us a little bit, I suppose. So the guy playing during the switchbacks was a bagpiper. And to most people, it was probably kind of funny and entertaining. To me, it felt like a funeral wake. I was sick. I didn't feel good. I didn't want to do anything less than run the ridge that day, but I knew I was going to. So I made it up the switchbacks, up to Sacagawea in well under the time we needed to get. At some point, they boot you off the race if you're not fast enough, but I made it. So I made it up to Sacagawea under time. And then came my favorite part of the course, Ross Pass. Now, Ross Pass I like to liken to grade school. When things are easy, your parents are surrounding you with love at all times, and elementary is, on the whole, pretty fun. So Ross Pass is like that. The path is marked well. The path is soft, fresh dirt. It's not muddy or slippery. Everything is fantastic. The trees are blocking the sun from really beating you down. It was great. It was my favorite part of the run. And then you get to the station at Ross Pass, take a little water, and up the back of Bridger Bowl. Now, I don't know what your teens were like for you, but for me, my teens were a little rough. And it was a lot like going up the backside of Bridger Bowl. I would take 2 steps forward, slip on the mud, and fall backwards more often than not. Sometimes with chunks of trees and grass in my grasp as I tried to scamper up the hill. But being at the top of Bridger Bowl was a lot like graduation. Everyone celebrating me, being the center of attention, getting all the love and attention I needed up there just to go on. I had friends, there was water, we changed our shoes and got bandaged up since we were already pretty rough from the first half of the race. Now, after Bridger Bowl comes Saddle Peak. Saddle Peak was a lot like my 20s. Now, I thought my 20s were going to be like a Friends episode. Everyone happy, having fun, enjoying each other's company, and just living life, the adventure of life in your 20s. But for me, my 20s were more like trying to build a sandcastle and having the waves wash it away every other day. That's what Saddle Peak was like for me too. Climbing up Saddle Peak, trying just to get one foot to go in front of the other as my energy and spirit waned. Falling down on the hard rocks of life without parents to catch my fall or brace me from that. I got up Saddle Peak, which culminates in Baldy. So at Baldy, there's another station, more people to cheer you on and cheer you up. But for me, the peak of Baldy at 8,500 feet was actually my bottom. At 33 in my life, I had taken my 20s and early 30s to really put together everything I thought I needed. I had school under my belt. I had a great job. I had a husband. And at 33, all of that was washed away by a great big wave. And when I was on the top of Baldy, that's what was happening to me at that moment too. It's like my life and the ridge run culminated there on top of Baldy. The storm was coming in from Livingston. The rain was starting. I was hyperventilating and bawling and begging the aid worker to just call a helicopter for me. But I knew they wouldn't do that. She slapped me on the back and told me I'd be okay, and off I went. On the one hand, I was bankrupt spiritually and emotionally and physically. On the other hand, it was all downhill from here, and I knew this part of the course better than any other part. So off I went, through the trees, down the M. I finished the race with such relief, right in front of a 60-year-old woman behind me, and right behind an 85-year-old man. Not my best day on a race course, but I finished. And it's a lot like life. If I took Baldy as me being 33 and hitting bottom, and the finish line as a quarter of that time later, because Baldy is 3/4 of the way through the race, I probably only have about 2 years left, and I'm hoping that is not the case for me. I don't know what's in store, but I'm hoping that I have more than 2 years. What I want to talk to you today about, and what I learned from that experience, was life is lived beyond the finish line. What I do after I complete the big task is actually what matters most. Getting those degrees, getting that marriage certificate, getting that job, it never got me what I was trying to feel inside. It was just an outside facade. And what I've learned today is that moving beyond those accomplishments and healing the person that I am inside is what really matters most. So the first thing that I do in accomplishing that, in building that in my life, is I run out fear. I made a decision a few years ago. I noticed this pattern in my life. I would see something new or uncertain, and I would get very afraid. I didn't even identify it that way all the time. Sometimes it came out as jealousy or hatred or just kind of annoyance. And I would see this new thing, and I would feel that uncomfortable feeling. And then I would try to ignore it. And I would do something else, and this thing, whatever it was, would keep popping up in my life. And it would just almost drive me crazy. And then, eventually, over a long period of time, it would keep popping up until I got so frustrated with it that I would just go do it anyway. And find out that it's not so bad after all. So what I decided a few years ago is what was happening was I was seeing something, I was feeling fear, and then I was avoiding the situation. And eventually doing it. What I decided to do was to see the thing that I wasn't sure of, run at the fear, and move past it more quickly. So right after making that decision, I got an email in my inbox about being a professional speaker. Now, I've been in Toastmasters for many, many years, and I always just, the goal of Toastmasters for me was not to throw up on myself while I stood up here. Like, if I accomplished that goal in front of a room, I was doing well. But when the emails started coming on about professional speaking, I thought, well, I don't know. I don't have what they have. Oh, she is not even the person I want to be. I had all these negative ideas pop into my head, and then I realized, oh, I've decided to run at fear. I need to go do that. So I did. I signed up for a course in professional speaking. I bought a ticket to Florida, and I got to spend a week with the most amazing people, all trying to hone their message to be able to change the world effectively. Their messages were all amazing, and they all wanted to change the world, but their delivery is what needed to be honed to make that appealing to their audiences. So throughout the last year, I've had the pleasure of training with Mecklin and Joe and Tom, and with all of the team that I met in Florida. And I've been so blessed. Just my willingness to run at the fear instead of turning from it and shutting it out and thinking I wasn't good enough or they were annoying. Once I let go of that, I was able to go from a Toastmaster speaker who could only manage not to throw up on herself to a professional paid speaker who can go anywhere in the world and talk about numerous subjects and not throw up on myself. So the second thing I want to talk to you about tonight is about failure. Now, like you might imagine, I alluded to in hitting my bottom on the top of Baldy, I have failed more than most in my life. I've been divorced, I've lost jobs, I've had an eating disorder and addiction, and I've even attempted suicide. Through all that failure, all of that failure built me into the woman that I am today. And I am grateful for every one of those failures today. The other day, I was driving along, bringing my kids to school, and I heard a story on NPR that really drove home the point about failure being fantastic. And it was about entrepreneurs. And every day in my business, I work with entrepreneurs. And this story caught my attention when it came on. In this story, they were talking about female entrepreneurs and male entrepreneurs. And they were telling about female entrepreneurs experiencing failure and then thinking that it was them that was the failure, not just the idea themselves. And that successful male entrepreneurs, serial entrepreneurs who make business after business, it's not that they don't fail, but they have an almost delusional confidence that even if they're currently failing, they will be successful in the future. Now, through my business, I help entrepreneurs every day. And after I heard that, I thought, this is awesome. This is something I can totally use. This is where I can be the piece that helps people believe in themselves to an almost delusional extent and therefore build businesses that can change the world. Now, I want to explain to you I want to give this a little bit more meat. So I also do training for large organizations. And we do all kinds of games. The organization comes to me and they say, we are having a problem with customer service, or we need our sales team to be more effective, or our managers are not communicating well with our staff. Whatever their problem, I design games that help them to be able to see those challenges within their organization and remedy them in a way that is not frustrating or uncomfortable, because they're playing games. So they're learning through an avenue that is less awkward than just sitting down with your boss and discussing your deficits, which no one likes. So the other day I was doing an event in Boise, Idaho, and I had two teams. So for this game, it's called Key Punch. I have two teams, Team 1 and Team 2. Now each of those teams needs to hustle down a field, touch 32 numbers in a specific order that are written on a tarp, and hustle back. My job is to time them and to count their errors. So the rules are they can't touch more than one number at a time, they can't have two people in the circle at a time, and they can't run. There are penalties for all of those. So Team 1 hears the rules, and they take off down the field. And they get down there and they touch the 32 numbers with a little bit of jostling and a few errors, and they hustle back. And their time was 3 minutes. 3 minutes. And they had 9 errors. So 9 errors times 5 seconds each is 45 seconds. 3 minutes plus 45 seconds is 3 minutes, 45 seconds. So 3:45, that's where they ended up in time. Team 2, I say, okay, how much better can you do? and of course everyone's excited and they're going to beat the other team. So team 2 takes off. They run down, or they hustle down the field. They get to the tarp. They touch all the numbers. They hustle back. They get back in 2 minutes, 30 seconds. 30 seconds faster than their counterparts. And they only have 2 errors. 2 times 5 is 10 seconds, so 2 minutes, 40 seconds. So the first team did it in 3 minutes, 45. The second team did it in 2 minutes, 40 seconds. And then I say, okay, now you get a chance to redeem yourself, team 1. You get to do it again. So team 1 hustles off. They get down and back in just over a minute, and they have only 5 errors this time. So a minute 15 plus 5 errors, 25 seconds, is a minute 40. So they've not only surpassed team 2, but they've beat their own record, and they're thrilled. And I say, okay, team 2, now you really got to dial it in. You're better. You did better than them right off the bat. You go try it. So I time them. They hustle down. They struggle a lot. There's some confusion and some not so nice words said, and they get back. And lo and behold, they got 2 minutes, 30 seconds the last time with 10 seconds in penalties. And this time they come back at almost 3 minutes with 10 penalties. And I say, what in the world happened? Why did you do worse the second time? You had experience. But what they didn't get, because they were successful the first time, is they didn't get to learn the communication skills and the teamwork and all of those things we were there to learn because they were successful the first time. And I tell my business owners this too. When you're successful the first time, you actually are robbing yourself of the opportunity to learn all the lessons you need to build your business. In your failures, you're learning much more than you are in your successes. So today, I want to challenge you. I want you to challenge you to learn from your failures, to run at your fears, and to live your life beyond the finish line. Thank you.